they sent this confirmation like, hey, please sign and return this. I was like sweating bullets because I was like, oh my gosh, I think they're trying to award me this contract. This was a 2-month process. Actually, this is a lot easier than I thought. You need to get started. Don't let the small things hold you up.
All you got to do is take action. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. You can win a contract. She did it in 2 months. 2 months, y'all. We have Angelica Bell, who won a government contract faster than if you're trying to jump into a getaway car. So fast. I can't wait for her to share with you. And she is the head of Stellar Edge Facility Solutions in Georgia. And I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Angelica.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
First and foremost, tell us about the recent win, as well as tell us about how did you get into government contracting?
So I actually heard about government contracting probably about 3 years ago, but I didn't hop right into it. Honestly, I'm not sure why. I don't know if I thought it was complicating or something like that, but we ended up going a different route with the business and went into dispatching for logistics truck companies, and we tried that for a little while. It just kind of conflicted with our schedule, and so we did that for about a year, and then we were just like, hey, we just wanted to do something different, and government contracting popped up again. I think I saw Earn Your Leisure with Jason White, and then as I did my research, I found you, and then Wes Fisher, and then I was like, okay, this really doesn't sound as complicating. Honestly, it sounds pretty easy. And then I started to look at the cost, because usually to start up a business, there's a lot that you have to pay in up front, but for this business, just from hearing from you, you literally had to just start with sole proprietorship. You didn't have to have a website right away. And then I think pretty much that was it. Just come up with a business name. I'm extra, so I had to get like a personal business email because that's just me. And it was just really something I realized that's a quick start. And I was like, why not give it a try? Because it's not like I have to put a lot of money up front. It's literally something easy to start with very little to no cost. So that's how I jumped in and decided to give it a try. And so far it's been successful.
Tell us about the recent win, and then we'll keep taking a step back, because this is exciting, because as you shared, you don't have to have a website. You can even use @Gmail, or if you're old school, Outlook, Hotmail, whatever, Yahoo. And so talk to us about, like, what did you win? What did you first dive into given your background with dispatching?
Absolutely. So just clarifying, do you mean like how did I start, or when was the pivot, or what do you mean exactly? I'm sorry.
I'm like all of the above.
Gotcha. And like I said, just with my background, I've done like travel companies because I used to love to travel and want to help support people travel. My very first business, like at 21, I was a videographer for weddings. So I did that a lot, and photography as well. With those businesses, they went well, but there was a lot of, how could I say? Sometimes you do stuff because you love doing it. It's your passion. But sometimes, not always, doing your passion and turning it into a business is not always the greatest thing. So that's what I was running to with my travel business and with my videography business. It became something I didn't love and got really overwhelming. And then with the dispatching, like I said, conflicting because I do work as well. I'm a sales trainer. And so I was really looking for a business that I can run easily while I'm still working and build up to where it will cover my full-time job. So that's when we stopped doing logistics, being a dispatcher for truck companies, we just moved over to government contracting. And I finally just took a dive when I saw like this 5-day challenge with Wes Fisher. I was like, okay, why not? Let's go ahead and try. Let's see what I can learn. And that was like the push, like actually going through that class and learning and actually submitting a proposal. That was the push that I needed, because like going through the class was like, oh my gosh, it's really not that hard. And it's really not that complicating to talk to other contractors. I'm an overthinker. So, I was like, actually, this is a lot easier than I thought. So like a week later, it's still a little bit hard trying to do both with work, but I was able to get my first contract out, my proposal submitted for a janitorial services program. And it took about things that went wrong. and that I can tell you about, but it took about 30 days, 45 days. And before that, they actually gave me the contract. They were communicating back and forth with me. So that's how I realized, okay, I might be actually winning this thing, because they were asking a lot of little details. But that was my push. That's how I jumped from there and actually just moved forward with government contracting.
And I know like you're in the Facebook group. What kind of support or help did that give to you in addition to watching content, taking the 5-day challenge? What other support did you get by being in the Facebook group that helped for this opportunity, the janitorial one, and for others?
Absolutely. For one, like, everyone is extremely helpful. So number one, like, usually what I try to do is search the group for answers first. Your group has a ton of different resources, ton of questions that have been answered. So I got a lot of my information from there. And then anything I didn't know, I was able to ask that question in your group. And like, everyone's there is like extremely helpful. No one was condescending. Hey, check this out. Look here. Oh, they might mean this. Like, they were very helpful with asking questions. So that made me feel more confident going into submitting the proposal. And then, yeah, of course, like on top of that, your videos, a lot of your videos, almost all of them, especially the interviews you do, that kept me going like, oh my gosh, he just did this in 4 months and he just did this in 6 months. Like, who knows where I'll be if I just go ahead and move my foot forward and where I could be in 6 months. But the group was extremely helpful. I was actually able to meet people. We're in a group now and we kind of keep each other encouraged. So that's been a huge motivation for me. And because sometimes when you're in business too, and you don't have anyone else around you that understands what you're doing, sometimes it kind of make it lonely and a little stressful and kind of hard to keep moving forward. So that's been extremely helpful as well.
I love that. And it is, because when you own the business, there's no one, hey, you got to turn this in on your project report. You're in the red. It's like, you own the business, you decide everything.
Absolutely.
So you won this janitorial work. So they were emailing you back and forth and you thought, okay, this is a good sign, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell us about this.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell like some of the overthinking things I did.
Yeah, please do. We all do this. We all overthink. I still overthink.
That makes me feel better knowing that too. Like, I'm not the only one.
No.
Let me tell you how I submitted my first proposal. Once again, kind of going in blind. We did cover that in the 5-day challenge, but not in detail. There's still some things that you need to research on your own. So I actually found a YouTube video of, I think it was the Gov Kid method, where he actually went through a janitorial contract proposal. And I literally paused that video, probably 10 seconds per frame, and I created a Word document covering the same thing. So my proposal ended up looking a lot similar to what he created. I read the same word, changed it up a little bit, of course, to fit my business. I think he had like a table of contents where you put your letterhead, and then he was like, for here, if you're going to use a pricing schedule, just put here, see attachment. So basically I followed that in detail to create my proposal. And then also what was really, really extremely helpful, some of the contractors that I lucked out on really one women-owned business company. And to be honest, like, they helped me with majority of the work because they had their qualifications, they had their past performance ready, they had their janitorial checklist, they had based on the schedule, the task schedule that was also put in the invitation, they are ready. So it turns out that they were actually getting a lot of calls for this actual solicitation. So that's one thing why it worked in my favor. But I believe just having a team that has their stuff together can make the proposal submitting process a lot easier. So that was helpful there. So I was able to combine everything, get it looking pretty, nice and organized, and I submitted it. So the first email I think I got after that, they said, thank you, it's been received. And I also followed up with them like a week later because I heard that, that's something good to do as well. Actually, I heard it from your group. Someone actually posted that and said that's how they build a relationship with the contracting officer. So I did that, and she let me know, hey, it'll be probably a couple of weeks. They're going through the technical portion of it. So I was like, okay, well, great. Thank you for the update. So after that, something else came up. It was where they were asking me about pricing. So it was like, hey, can you go and look at your pricing again and resubmit, because what you're asking for is actually above what the budget they had set out for that project. I was like, okay, sure, not a problem. Then I was kind of like nervous. I wasn't quite sure, how low to take it or where to go. So this is one of the things where I was overthinking. Would it be rude or strange if I asked them what was the previous award number or whatever so I can look it up? Because I actually try to look it up. I'm not that good at FPDS just yet, or FPDS. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't able to find it. Finally, it took me like 2 days, and I just realized, let me go ask. The worst they can say is no. So I asked, and she was like, sure. She gave me the actual last year awarded amount. So I went and checked the FPDS website, and basically I saw what the last years were awarded. And I was like, okay, so I can take it down to about here. And then on top of that, what I realized I did wrong, I didn't check all the amendments on the solicitation. Mm-hmm. So actually, the first solicitation was for night and day cleaning. And then they actually put in an amendment and was only for night cleaning. So that was the reason why I was so high. So finding the previous award amount plus realizing that I was high because of that, I was able to resubmit it with a more accurate pricing. So I figured I resubmitted that. They say thank you received. And I think it was like a week or two later. And they were like, okay, what is your status for being registered in Sam.Gov? So this whole entire time, I've been having issues registering with Sam.Gov. And it was because there was a delay in my LLC due to another business, and I didn't find that out too much later. So, and then I kept trying to correct it and just do it as a sole proprietor. And one thing, just call. That's the biggest thing. Just call Sam.Gov, and they're really, really extremely helpful through the process. And what it turns out I was doing, I really needed to go in and completely do everything as a sole proprietor versus the LLC I was originally trying to set up. So I was still trying to correct it, but I had to create a whole new UEI situation. So I couldn't do that on that one. So I had to let that go and start over from the beginning. And I was like sweating bullets because I was like, oh my gosh, I think they're trying to award me this contract. And the only thing that I'm missing is my Sam.Gov registration. So luckily, I was able to figure out what I was doing wrong just by simply calling. And they escalated, because one of the things I kept telling them, hey, I'm waiting on an award. Is there a way we can escalate this? And what they will do is put in a ticket number for me. And so instead of have to wait like 24 to 48 hours for my UEI, I got it the same day. And then it escalated again when it got to, first, I think you have to do like my IRS check for your sole proprietor just to make sure. And then from there it's sent to, I forgot what department, but that department that gives you your cage number. So once it was in that department, I called again and they escalated for me again, and I was able to receive my cage number the next day. So that whole process took about a week. And basically, while I was going through that process, I just emailed the contracting officer back, just like, hey, there was an issue with my Sam.Gov registration. Can you wait? Can you give me until this day to get that taken care of? And they actually waited on me, So I will definitely say just reach out to anyone you need, be upfront, be clear, and people, they will try to work with you. So once I got that finally taken care of, I think it was like a week later, they sent this confirmation like, hey, please sign and return this. This is, I guess, your award to the quote that you submitted for this. I was like, oh, but I still didn't want to tell anybody. I was like, let me sign this contract first before I tell them what. And so I signed the contract, and then we were having issues when she was trying to sign her portion and send it back. For some reason, it wasn't coming to my business email. I guess the file got so large, so she had to use my personal email. The way we eventually got it, and that's basically how it was my first contract.
Yeah. That is tremendous. It's tremendous because you persevered, number one. Number two, you took action. That's what's important. Like beginning with calling the vendors. So many people, they give up because there's a lot of information out there about how to call vendors, or hey, we've all called a vendor some point in our life. We've all bought something where you had to call somebody. But you didn't give up. Even when the person said, oh, a lot of people have called. You also, it's clear that you're very respectful and you are appreciative because because the biggest thing in this space, whether you subcontract, middleman, make more offers, more approach, whatever, however you want to call any of this outsourcing, this sourcing, right? You, and we do it too, we're dependent on this other person, this other entity. And it can be a big entity like a Lockheed Martin, or it could be a small woman-owned business that you're partnered with, like with this situation. And so it's great that they had all of that information. They were forthcoming. They shared it. You were like, hey, you did what you did. You submitted everything. And it's great. Again, I want to point out that Angelica took action and followed up, because when you follow up, put yourself in the position of the contracting officer. Oh, wow, this vendor, they follow up. They really care, right? They're not just like, oh, I threw in a proposal. Let me see what happens because I heard you. It's so simple. I didn't do this. Like, they're all those janitorial work, they still want somebody who's going to do a good job. And then they worked with you. That is vital, because some of them don't. I've had that situation. We bid on something with the SBA years ago, and I got no. They threw mine out. I was like, wow. And so, but it's cool is that they worked with you. You were patient. You escalated things with Sam.Gov. You emphasized calling them. These are all the right things to do, because at the end of the day, the government must sell with 25% of small businesses, and they want to do work with us as long as we're willing to meet them halfway. And you more than did that. So it's exciting. This is so exciting. So did you already start the work?
This contract actually doesn't start until December 7th.
Oh my God.
I know. And we have to do background checks. So right now we're in the process of going through the background checks with the cleaning agency. And that was pretty interesting, because my actual cleaning company that I have, they went to the actual site visit and they were told that background checks were going to take about 4 to 6 weeks. But then after talking to my contracting officer, she was telling me that it can take 3 to 4 months. So we got kind of nervous, because I was like, that's kind of close to December, but hopefully maybe it's more so what the actual on-site person said. And so right now we're getting through that process and getting that taken care of.
And can you elaborate for those who are watching and may wonder, like, what goes into it? What have they required thus far that you do for the background check?
Absolutely. So there was actually a couple of forms that they wanted me to send over. Well, they sent over to me. And one, I think it just asked for like your general information, name, address, email, your social, that type of information. And then there was another form, which I think it was their company policies that you had to sign off on as well. And then I forgot which agency they send it over, but I think it's like some kind of security agency that they send that information over to. So far, it's a really simple, easy process. They sent the paperwork over for us to fill out. And for me, since I'm working with a contractor, a subcontractor, I kind of gave them a deadline on when I wanted that completed, just to make sure we stay on schedule for as getting everything taken care of before December 7th.
Did they require at all fingerprints, driver's license, social security card?
So far, they haven't mentioned it yet. They've been kind of vague. Like, I think they just want us to start piece by piece. So like when we get to that, they'll ask for that. But so far, they haven't mentioned it just yet.
Okay. That's good to know, because that's another element of this. You never know. Sometimes they want this kind of information. So just being aware that whoever you decide to partner with, middleman, you make more money, that there are people who are going past this background check.
Yep.
And I get it. Some people may not be forthcoming. Others may be very forthcoming. But this is important for those who are going to be involved in the work. It's not every single person in the company. It's those involved in the work. Are you able to share, like, high level which agency this is for everyone watching?
Yes, it's actually USG. And right now, I can't think of the actual.
That's all right. If you said USDA.
And just to make sure, it's actually USGS.
Like Coast Guard.
Yes.
Okay, but all of that's fun. Coast Guard is good because they're under Homeland Security.
Absolutely. And what you brought up too, because that was the thing that the contractor mentioned to me as well. They was like, they had people to put in place, but they were trying to find out the details of what qualifies the background check. And like I said, they were very vague with it, because I think one of the persons she was looking at had like a marijuana charge a few years ago. So I was like, since they're being very vague about it, I will say just keep it clean, no felonies, no marijuana, that type of thing. So that is a huge thing to know. Absolutely.
Awesome. And it makes sense too, because I was thinking, I was like, this is either defense or some kind of cyber agency or something like that. So it's great. And at the end of the day, it's to keep everyone safe is the intent for this, because these aren't just some empty warehouse. These are buildings where people are in them. So just for everyone to keep in mind. Again, it doesn't mean if somebody has something in their background that they can't do this. It's about the people doing the work. That's what's vital. Oh my gosh, I love this. And how about, have you already dug into how you're going to get paid? Like, which payment platform do they use, for instance?
So actually, we're working through that now because we're getting ready to send out our contract. So just for anyone to know, I have a contract that I sent out to my subcontractor as well. And then they also may have a contract for you to sign to solidify the relationship. So we're in the middle of that. I did find out I kind of knew what their payment terms were a little bit earlier in advance, just to make sure, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to get factoring or anything for that. So luckily they're net 30, so it's completely fine. And then for payment systems, I know she confirmed that she wanted to go by check, but I'm still researching for myself which payment system I want to use to go with that. So if you guys have anything you suggest, please let me know for sure. And then, of course, I know I could probably just check the Facebook group because, like I said, everything is in there. So, but that part I'm working on this week. Yeah.
When it comes to paying all of the payables, you got to do what works best. When I first started out 15 years ago, I used, checks, ACH. I probably even did cash. I mean, I did whatever I could do. About 8 years ago or something like that, we switched to Bill. It's Bill.com. I like Bill.com. It's free for vendors to register. It's a monthly fee and a small fee. This video is not sponsored by them. This is a service we really use. And what I like about it is both parties can see what they're being paid. So then there's no surprise. It's not like, oh my gosh, I didn't know $200,000 came through and I have to pay taxes on this as a 1099. It's like there's no surprises. And then the same on your end. You know what people have been paid. You can post date. I really like that. And the money comes from your bank account. And I think you can even pay with a credit card. They have all kinds of things you can do on there. But again, you got to do what's best for you as the business owner. So do what's best for you. And then how does Homeland Security pay? Does Homeland Security pay you through IPP? Do they have you send in, is it IPP?
Yep, absolutely. So that was completely, that was another way that I knew I was going to win, because before she sent that paperwork saying, hey, sign here, you've been awarded, I actually saw an email come through from IPP, and I was like, what is this? I wasn't quite sure because I haven't to that IPP was, and I was like, okay, I Googled it, and that's when I realized, okay, it's some type, it has to do with like SAM, the government. And then I also went and checked the facts on IPP.gov, and it says that it's something that you couldn't have set up. It's something that the agency would have had to set up and pay you. And that's how I knew then. I was like, okay, I think I definitely got the contractor. So they have me on IPP, and it's for accelerated pay.
Awesome. IPP, it's a beautiful system. We've been using it since 2013. We've been in that system, and I know of recent, they made changes. Before, you could set things up, you had a username and password, and I was just informed by my team that they've elevated the security portion. So I was like, oh wow, because I'm not involved in invoicing like I was when I first started out. So just be aware of that. And then it's great that they invite you, because everything is tied to your cage and your UEI, and they pay you, they'll direct deposit to the bank account in your SAM. So it's a really cool system. It's another one where, we can go back to 2013 and see all of our invoices. And the same will happen for you, where you can see your invoices. You'll be able to see as they're being processed. Just one little quick strategy is the one downside of IPP. If you make a mistake in there, they have to fix it.
Okay.
I think there's like kind of almost like a draft feature. So just be careful, because that's the only thing where early on I made a lot of mistakes, and then I couldn't correct it. Then I had to ask the contracting officer representative, and I know I annoyed her. And so it was just like, and that's why I don't handle these things anymore. So, I'm amazing people who do it, but just something beware. But it's a beautiful, beautiful system. I love IPP. A lot of the non-defense agencies use it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Thank you. And then just like a quick question on that, the mistakes you were making, was it like on the invoice portion, or what kind of mistakes were there?
It was one, I wouldn't upload invoices. This is the one area where we super over deliver, even if they don't ask. So we'll create the invoice in QuickBooks. And to Angelica, your point about the accelerated pay, we emphasize on the invoice that we are a small business concern because that helps accelerate, as well as when you talk to them, just like you did before you won, you're helping them through this so they accelerate your pay because there's people doing this. And if they don't know, like, and trust you, they're not going to rush your pay. Even if you're small, even if somebody out there says, oh, you get, okay, great. And then it doesn't happen like that. So my early mistake was like not attaching the PDF from QuickBooks. So I would just type in the numbers, but I didn't include an attachment. I didn't include, let's say there's travel, and maybe that attachment didn't include. The system hopefully has gotten better, but it would be finicky about names of files. So I was careful with that. There were times where the point of contact didn't realize there were attachments. So then we got into the part of emailing them the attachments and putting them in IPP and letting them know they're in both places. Because sometimes they would go and they're like, I can't access these, I can't again, we're all human. So that would be a mistake. Another one is, let's say I mistyped the amount. Like when I very first went in there, I didn't realize I had to put like the monthly amount. So let's say the monthly amount was like $100,000 and I put in like 1.2 million, like the contract award or something. And then the contracting officer was like, Kizzy, what are you doing? I was like, I didn't know. So then she had to fix that. All of these little things of, and then the other interesting thing with IPP, some of the contracts, they would have all these line items. So it was like, okay, we got to make sure, how do we then compare it to the contract? Because sometimes it didn't match. So then we would have to go through that. So these are a lot of my mistakes early on, and I'm not involved, got through it. The team handles it and does a really good job. And what really works is communicating with them, making sure they have a copy, making sure they know when you put it in there, because all of these people have jobs. They're not just waiting around to process our invoices.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but you won't make these mistakes, so don't worry. You'll be good.
Thank you for telling me so I can make sure. That sounds like something I would do too.
Yeah, it's just, and if there's other things that they want, like if all of a sudden they're like, hey, in your invoice, like let's say they reimburse you for products or something like that, and they want a receipt or they want an itemized receipt, then it's just stuff like that, making sure you put it in there and play around. Sometimes the PDF would be too big and we would have to give them 5 PDFs. It's a lot of playing around because this system continues to evolve and it's part of it. So what's next with them and what's next with you and all of this amazing work?
So right now, one of the biggest things that me and the contractor are working on is just our communication. Because to me, one of the most important things, especially when you're working with someone and you have their payments, their paychecks and all that, you want to make sure you have like a good communication, and then also just how we're going to do the communication with the contracting officers and stand on top if there's issues, who would that go through first and how that be communicated over. So we're working through that now. And the cool thing about this, the contractors that I'm using, they have done a government contract before, but it was also someone who brokered it out as well. So that was one of their questions. They was like, is this something that you guys normally do? And I even mentioned like, hey, it is. And if you want me to help you sign up directly with Sam so you can do it yourself, I could definitely help with that. But what I found, she was like, no, that looks overwhelming. So it is true that a lot of businesses don't get into it. Like we're actually being really helpful by supporting them because they think it is overwhelming and too much work as well. So, but that's the biggest thing. It's just getting that sorted, our communication sorted. Also, we're working with the previous company that had the contract just to get an idea of like the usage for us. Because this contract we're covering like replenishing of toilet paper products, that type of material. So we want to kind of get an idea what the usage is like for that as well. And so future wise, what I'm hoping to do is work with you, hopefully. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes. Because I've seen your story. I know where you've been, and I know you're super successful at what you do. And I'm hoping to have a mentor that can kind of help me skip all the issues and get to the next level. So right now, I'm still working on smaller contracts. I'm not shooting for the contracts because those add up to the 6-figure contracts. And then hopefully I'll be able to get you as a mentor and be able to move up forward and get into the $1 million contracts because where you want to go eventually. And I'm hoping that won't be too much. I know some $1 million contracts are really easy, but hopefully that's when I need to build a team. So that will be something to start a team, get mentorship so I can move to the next level. And then from there, I would like to get into more of the real estate space. So little top. Yeah.
I love that. And I would be honored to be your mentor. And you will definitely get there because there's a lot of different products and services that are $1 million contracts. You mean, really there are. I've seen tree trimming. I was like, wow, this is $1 million contract for 9 months. It really runs the gamut. Research, competency modeling, it really runs the gamut. So you'll definitely find that. You'll definitely go into real estate. There's tons of real estate in the government space. So you're gonna do that and more. As we close here, Angelica, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
I guess the best way, you can always find me on Instagram, Facebook at Angelica Bell. There's no one with that name, so I'll be super easy to find. And then also feel free to email me too at angelicab@gmail.com.
I encourage everyone, reach out, take that action, because look at what's happened. Look at what's happened.
Absolutely. This was like a, I guess, 2-month process. I kind of knew before then that I was gonna get it, but that's one of the biggest takeaways I would say is that you need to get started. If it wasn't for that challenge, I could have been lollygagging still, taking that first move. But the biggest thing is just to get started. You might not win the first one, that's okay, but it's good practice to help you build and learn, but eventually you will win something. So don't let the small things hold you up. Don't let LLC hold you up. Simple stuff. Just go ahead and get started, and who knows where you can be in just a few months. So
I know, and look at you. I mean, this is what's amazing. And I adore you and everything that you said, and I'm so appreciative. And again, please reach out to Angelica. Please do. And check out our Facebook group. Check out profitablecontracts.co if you haven't. And again, this is such a inspirational story. I am so blown away. And the same will happen for each and every one of you watching. All you got to do is take action. That's all you got to do. You can win a contract. She did it in 2 months, y'all. So until next time, everything is possible. Take care.